Last Saturday, a guy in a John boat on Lake Fork dumped a piece of soft plastic into a Ziploc bag he pulled from a cooler. No fancy gear, no $30 bottle of Pro Staff scent, just a beat-up Ziploc with something cloudy inside. 45 minutes later, he had a 5-fish limit that would make a tournament angler sick to his stomach. I asked him what was in the bag. He laughed and said, "Brother, you don't want to know. The tackle companies sure don't." He was wrong. I did want to know. And after 6 months of digging through buried research papers, laboratory data, and industry history that somebody tried very hard to erase, I found it. A $3, 2-ingredient mix from any grocery store that has been scientifically proven to trigger a 91% approach and feeding response in target freshwater species. 91%. Not my number. Not a guess. A number pulled from peer-reviewed research that the multi-billion-dollar tackle industry has every reason to keep you from seeing. Welcome back to Forbidden Lures. I'm your host, and today we are ripping the lid off one of the best-kept vaults in all of angling. I'm going to show you the exact science, the exact recipe, and the exact methods to weaponize it on the water this weekend. Fair warning, once you hear this, you will never look at that $28 bottle of commercial attractant the same way again. Grab a notebook, lock the door. Let's get into the forbidden waters. 1. The great tackle industry illusion. Here's a question nobody in the fishing industry wants you to ask. If a $3 kitchen mix outperforms a $30 bottle of branded scent, why does the $30 bottle even exist? The answer is simple: money. The modern angling industry is a $12 billion a year machine. It runs on one thing: making you believe that last year's gear isn't good enough. New colors, new formulas, new scientifically engineered scent technology in a neon bottle with a pro angler's face on the label. And look, some of it works. I'm not saying it's all garbage, but here's the part they'll never print on the packaging. The most potent chemoreceptive trigger on this planet is an unpatentable commodity that costs less than a cup of gas station coffee. There's zero profit in telling you that. So they don't. Instead, they sell you a bottle designed to last 5, maybe 8 trips. Then you come back. And you come back again. That's the model. Dependency by design. But this isn't a news story. The truth has been hiding in plain sight since the 1950s. Back in Akron, Ohio, a man named David DeLong started a company called DeLong Lures. While everyone else was pouring plain soft plastics, DeLong had a different idea. He realized that a lure could be more than a visual mimic. It could be a chemical mimic. He started hand-pouring soft baits, heavily infused with anise-based formulas, long before the words commercial scent even existed in fishing. And brother, his lures absolutely destroyed trophy bass. They dominated. They were legendary. So what happened? The industry grew. Corporations moved in. They figured out it was more profitable to sell you cheap, disposable plastics with a topical spray that washed off in 3 casts, so you'd buy another bottle. They engineered the durability right out of the scent. DeLong's approach got pushed aside, labeled old-fashioned, and quietly buried under a mountain of marketing dollars. Until now. 2. The missing link: the science of anethole. So what is the first half of this $3 forbidden mix? I'll tell you, and once you hear the science behind it, you're going to understand exactly why the industry wanted this gone. It's pure anise extract. The stuff that smells like black licorice. You can grab a bottle at any grocery store for about $2. But here's the thing. We're not talking about some folk remedy your grandpa swore by. We are talking about a specific molecule inside that extract called transanethole. And this molecule is a biological key that unlocks something terrifying in a fish's brain. Anise oil, whether it comes from Pimpinella anisum or star anise, is a complex chemical cocktail. But lab analysis, gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, the same technology used in forensic science, shows that transanethole makes up roughly 88% of that oil. It is the dominant compound. And it has a very specific effect on aquatic life. Now pay attention, because this is where it gets wild. Fish have an olfactory system that makes a bloodhound look amateur. They can detect chemical signatures at concentrations so low, you'd need a laboratory to even measure them. When transanethole dissolves into the water column, its molecular structure allows it to directly interact with something called TRPA1 channels, transient receptor potential anchorin 1 channels. in the fish's nervous system. Think of TRPA1 channels as alarm switches hardwired into the fish's brain. They're ancient. They're in almost every vertebrate on Earth. Their job is to detect pungent, biologically important chemical signals. When anethol molecules hit the olfactory receptor cells inside a fish's nasal sac, something extraordinary happens. The compound bridges the gap between smell and taste, mimicking the chemical signature of lipid-rich, high-protein prey. The fish's hypothalamus, its survival command center, fires an automatic motor response. Let me say that again so it sinks in. The fish does not choose to investigate. It is compelled to. It's an involuntary reflex, the same way you yank your hand off a hot stove before your brain even registers the pain. At the low concentrations found in a scent trail, anethol functions as what scientists call an incitant, a compound that triggers the initial uncontrollable predatory interest before the fish even knows what it's chasing. But wait, there's a second reason anise is so deadly, and almost nobody talks about this. Think about what's on your hands every time you touch a lure. Lactic acid, amino acids, sunscreen, petroleum residue from your reel grease, bug spray. Every single one of those chemicals screams danger to a pressured fish, especially in clear water, especially on lakes that see heavy traffic. Anethol acts as the ultimate masking agent. Its potent aromatic signature overwhelms and neutralizes those human odors, stripping away the chemical red flags that make a wary fish hesitate. You take away the hesitation, and the fish commits to the strike. Now, that's powerful on its own, but anise alone is only half the weapon. And the second ingredient, that's where the science goes from impressive to absolutely unfair. 3. The physiological catalyst. Why salt makes them lose their minds. Alright, buckle up, because what I'm about to explain is, in my opinion, the single most underrated piece of fish biology that any angler can exploit, and it costs about $1. The second ingredient is coarse sea salt, sodium chloride, NaCl, just plain salt. Now I can already hear some of you, salt? In freshwater, have you lost your mind? Brother, I haven't lost my mind. I found the cheat code. Let me explain. Every single freshwater fish on this planet is fighting a war you can't see, every second of every day. It's a war against physics, and it never stops. Here's the problem. A freshwater fish's body is saltier than the water it lives in. Because of osmosis, water is constantly flooding into the fish's body through its skin and gills, while essential salts and ions are bleeding out. If the fish stops fighting this, it dies, period. So what does the fish do? It runs molecular pumps, sodium-potassium pumps, in its gill tissue, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, burning through a staggering 20 to 30% of its total daily metabolic energy just to maintain the right internal balance. That's not a typo. Up to a third of everything a fish eats goes toward just staying alive at the cellular level. That's called osmoregulation, and it is the single biggest energy expense in a freshwater fish's life. Now here's where you come in. When you introduce a localized pocket of dissolved salt right around your bait, you are changing the water chemistry in that exact spot. You are temporarily reducing the osmotic gradient, closing the gap between the fish's internal salinity and the surrounding water. What does that mean in plain English? It means the fish suddenly doesn't have to work as hard to survive. Those expensive molecular pumps can throttle back, and all that saved energy, that 20 to 30% metabolic budget that was being burned on survival, gets redirected. Into what? Into hunting. Into aggression. Into feeding. You just gave the fish a biological green light. And this isn't theory, this is proven science. In controlled laboratory studies on Nile tilapia, one of the most commonly studied freshwater species, fish exposed to a low-dose salt environment showed a massive spike in feeding aggression. By day 60, the salt-exposed group was completing its entire feeding cycle in just 15 seconds. The control group? 60 seconds. That's a 4-fold increase in feeding speed and aggression, 4 times, from salt. The fish's brain is reading that localized salt pocket as a signal. This is a high-quality habitat. Energy is cheap here. Feed now, feed fast, feed hard. And you created that signal for about $1. 4. The 91% synergy, when the two combine. Now here's where the magic happens. Here is where 2 plus 2 equals 10. Anise alone triggers olfactory interest. The fish's nose says something worth eating is nearby. Salt alone creates a physiological green light. The fish's body says energy is cheap, hunt now. But when you combine them, you're not just adding two effects together. You're creating a synergy that attacks the fish's nervous system from two completely independent biological pathways at the same time. And the fish has no defense against it. Here's something most people don't know. Researchers found that salt dissolving in the water around the bait creates a localized ion field that acts as a chemical amplifier. The sodium and chloride ions physically carry the anethol molecules further through the water column, up to 40% further. Without salt, your scent trail might reach 12 feet. With salt, that aromatic signal blasts out to 18 feet or more in every direction. You're casting a wider net with a more potent signal, and when the fish arrives, its body chemistry is already primed to feed aggressively. This specific 1-2 punch, the olfactory trigger plus the physiological catalyst, is what researchers confirm produced a 91% approach response in controlled testing. 91% of fish exposed to this combination approached and engaged the bait. 91%. From $3 worth of grocery store ingredients. Let that sit for a second. Then ask yourself why nobody in the industry ever told you. 5. Know your target. Who bites and who doesn't. Now I've got to be straight with you, because if I sat here and told you this mix catches every fish in every lake under every condition, I'd be no better than the guys selling you those $30 bottles. The truth is more interesting than that, and more useful. Fish fall into different categories based on how they find food, and understanding this will determine exactly how and when you deploy the $3 mix. Let's start with the fish this mix was practically designed for, the olfactory specialists. Catfish, carp, bullhead, eels. These are fish that live and die by their sense of smell. Take a channel catfish. Its barbels, those whiskers, are covered in chemoreceptors so dense that the entire fish is basically a swimming tongue. When a channel cat enters an anise salt gradient in the water, it doesn't casually investigate. It locks on. It tracks. It commits. Studies have shown that bullhead catfish use their chemical senses to initiate both the search phase and the actual strike phase of feeding. Drop an anise paste bait in front of a catfish and it will hit it harder than live bait, almost every single time. For these fish, this mix is borderline unfair. Next tier, mixed sense foragers. Think tilapia, panfish, bluegill. These fish use a combination of sight and smell. They spot something that looks edible, then they move in close and use their chemical senses to confirm, is this food or is this plastic? The anise-salt combo gives them that confirmation on a silver platter. Response? Moderate to high. Now what about the big dogs? Largemouth bass, pike, walleye, trout? These are visual specialists. Ambush predators. They locate prey almost entirely by sight and movement. A largemouth bass does not swim across a pond because it smelled something interesting. It reacts to flash, vibration, silhouette. So is the mix useless for them? Not even close. And here's why. When a bass smashes a moving lure, the first thing it does in the next fraction of a second is taste it. And in that instant, the fish makes a decision. Is this food or is this a trick? With a plain plastic bait, the answer is almost always trick, and the fish spits it out faster than you can blink. But when that bass bites down on a lure soaked in anise and salt, the immediate taste confirms to its brain, this is organic. This is food. Hold on. Instead of a split-second rejection, you get a longer, more committed bite, and that extra half-second, sometimes full second, is the difference between a hook set and a heartbreak. The $3 mix won't draw a bass from 20 feet away, but it will make damn sure that when they bite, they don't let go. 6. How to weaponize the $3 mix. Alright, you've got the science, you understand why it works and who it works on. Now let's get your hands dirty. Step 1. Go to any grocery store. Grab a small bottle of pure anise extract. Should cost about $2. Read the label. Make sure it says pure extract and lists anethol as the active compound. Do not grab the cheap imitation flavoring. That's synthetic garbage and it won't do what we need. Step 2. Grab a box of coarse sea salt or kosher salt. About $1. One critical rule. Do not use iodized table salt. Iodine is toxic to fish and can contaminate the water. Coarse, non-iodized. That's it. Total damage, roughly $3. Now here are the 3 methods to deploy it. Method 1, the smear. Topical application. This is your go-to for hard baits, crankbaits, spoons, spinnerbaits, and cutbait. Take half a teaspoon of anise extract, a teaspoon of coarse salt, and mix it with a carrier, a pinch of flour, or a dab of unscented petroleum jelly to create a thick, sticky paste. Here's why the paste matters. Anethol is lipid-soluble. It bonds to greasy, oily surfaces. That paste grips onto the lure's surface and holds. Rub it directly onto the bait before you cast. The salt gives it a gritty texture that actually mimics the feel of baitfish scales, and the anise blankets your human scent. One application stays active for about 20 to 25 minutes. Reapply, and you're back in business. Method 2. The soak. Long-term infusion. This is how you build a modern-day DeLong lure in your own kitchen. Here's something most anglers don't realize. PVC soft plastics are molecularly porous. They absorb liquids. The night before your trip, throw your soft plastics into a Ziploc bag. Pour in a tablespoon of anise extract and a tablespoon of coarse salt. Seal it, shake it up hard, and throw it in the fridge overnight. By morning, those plastics have absorbed the anethol and salt on a molecular level. They're not coated, they're infused. When you fish them the next day, they continuously bleed attractant into the water for hours. Not minutes, hours. You've turned a 90-cent stick bait into a scent weapon. Method 3. The cloud, the frenzy inducer. This one is for the catfish and carp hunters who want to own a spot. Take a small 4-inch square of cheesecloth. Drop a tablespoon of coarse salt and about 10 drops of anise extract inside. Tie it shut with fishing line. Now tie this pouch about 12 inches above your hook. When that rig hits the bottom, the salt slowly dissolves through the cheesecloth, creating a localized hypersaline, hyperaromatic zone radiating outward from your bait. You're altering the water chemistry in a sphere around your hook. Fish moving through the area hit that gradient, and their biology does the rest. Reduced osmotic stress, spiked aggression, competitive feeding. They don't just find your bait, they fight each other for it. That is a feeding frenzy for under $3. 7. The dark side, warnings and water laws. Now, before you go to the store tonight and start mixing this up by the gallon, I need to give you the warnings. Because science demands respect, and this stuff is powerful enough to cause real damage if you misuse it. First, do not overdose your live bait bucket or live well. Studies on common carp have shown that while low concentrations of anise oil produce a calm, almost sedative effect, high concentrations, anything over 100 to 200 milligrams per liter, flip a switch. We're talking severe blood congestion in the gills, intense inflammatory cell infiltration, erosive lesions on the skin. You can kill fish. Keep the mix on your lures and hooks where it belongs, not in your live well. Second, respect the environment. Over-applying salt in small stagnant ponds can devastate stenohaline species, fish that can't handle salinity changes. Their gill cells shrink, they dehydrate, and they die. Use common sense. A cheesecloth pouch in a river or large lake is fine. Dumping handfuls of salt into a farm pond is reckless. Third, know your local laws. In some regions, pristine trout waters in New Zealand, for example, the use of chemical enhancers like anise is strictly illegal to protect native ecosystems. Regulations vary by state and by country. Check before you fish. And one more thing, temperature matters. Below 55 degrees Fahrenheit, the dispersion rate of anethol drops off a cliff. The molecules move slower, the scent trail shrinks, and the effect weakens significantly. Veteran guides call it the warm water window. Plan to deploy this mix aggressively from late spring through mid-fall for maximum devastation. In cold water, save your extract for another day. So let me leave you with this. The tackle industry built a $12 billion empire selling you synthetic imitations of what Mother Nature provides for pennies. A $3 mix of pure anise extract and coarse sea salt, 2 ingredients, 5 minutes of prep, leverages TRPA1 receptor activation and osmoregulatory energy budgets to produce a 91% approach response in target species. This knowledge was used for centuries. It was perfected by lure pioneers in the 1950s, and then it was systematically buried by modern marketing. But today, the vault is open, and it's not closing. You now have a biochemical advantage that 99% of the anglers on the water this weekend have never heard of. The only question is, are you going to use it? Here's what I want you to do. This weekend, try it. $3, one trip. Come back to this video and drop a comment telling me what happened. I want to hear the stories. If you've ever experimented with anise or salt, tell me in the comments right now. Share this video with a fishing buddy who's been bleeding money at the tackle shop. And if you're ready to stop buying the hype and start fishing with hard science, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss the next time we crack open the industry's vault. Stay sharp, respect the water, and keep throwing those forbidden lures. I'll see you out there.